Hello, welcome back. Tactical Tuesday with Johnny Tiger. The date is October 25th, 2022. Just the other day, I got asked by a student at the studio that these techniques that we're working on, they take so much energy and so many practices. And I know because I'm small, it most likely won't work for me. So why do I need to learn this rather than going to what I know is going to work, like striking the groin or pinching or eye gouging? Why do I have to spend so much time learning these techniques when I come to class? Now, a more cynical person would probably say, well, because that's how martial arts schools and self-defense gurus get you to pay money. Otherwise, you can learn everything in the first lesson and they don't get paid. Well, there's a grain of truth to that because if if your whole goal is say, hey, Johnny Tiger, what are some of the tricks I need to know to defend myself? I can probably give that to you in one or two classes. But the problem is, even if you know, for example, you know to strike the groin, if you don't practice it, you are not going to be able to do it really well anyway. Even if you know to go for the eye, I mean, most people know to go for the eye. It's no secret. But if you don't know how to do it, when to do it, and what hand position to use is the best, then you won't be able to do it and do it right. But there is a much more complex reason why you need to learn the techniques, even though there's so many quicker way of getting things done. Someone grab your neck. Why are we spending time wrestling the arm, doing this technique, and doing all these martial artsy things, rather than if someone grabs me by the neck, I just kick them in the groin? Why do we bother learning the technique? Because there is always going to be a time, you never know when, but there's always going to be a time when your quick shortcut, when your dirty fighting suddenly fail due to one uh, un, uh, unpredicted situation or another. For example, you might not know that this person that you're fighting has been doing this for a long time. Might be someone who's been in jail, in and out of jail for 10 years. Know every dirty trick in the book. Okay? So the moment you go for the eye gouge, they turn their head and you get the side of their head and now they're angry at you. They're bashing your head in. What are you going to do? You go for the groin kick, they turn their hip just in time and you hit their hip instead. Now what are you going to do? Right? You never know. This person may be really, really high, really drunk, really stoned on some kind of drug. Which means the moment you go for that pinching, the inner thigh or the underarm, you pinch like crazy, they're not feeling it. They still don't let go of you. What are you going to do? This is why it's important to learn alternative techniques. Get good at more than one technique. It's nice to know those shortcuts. In fact, I always say, if you do get attacked, yeah, go for the eye, go for the groin, go for things that you know is going to work if you can get them to work. But the moment they fail to work, at least now you know there's something else to do. Okay? Don't grab me by the throat. I go for the eye and suddenly I find, oh, the person got really long reach. I can't even reach the eye. I go for a groin. They turn their hip, I can't get the growth. I drop my elbow down on their arm. Now I'm free, right? If I didn't know that move, I'm stuck. So it is in the spirit of that. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the 6 things that you may or may not heard about self-defense that may work but may not work. Okay, we're going to take them because these are the most common advices, the advice that you're going to get from even people who don't know self-defense. Okay, your mom, your auntie, your dad, your brother, someone, someone who might not even train, going to tell you, just do this if someone do this to you, just do that if someone do that to you. Okay, and these are always the first, almost one of the first advice you're going to get from self-defense schools. Now, let me quickly preface this by saying none of these are their own. None of these is bad advice. None of these is bad to know. All 6 of these are good when they work, but there's a really big chance of them failing, and we're going to go through them one at a time. Number 1, loud noises. A lot of people count on this one. Uh, Bring a whistle with you, or make a lot of noise, or there's even an alarm built into your iPhone that you can trigger and it make a really loud alarm noise, siren noise. And people say that's going to scare the attacker away. Yes, no, maybe. Okay? If the attacker was kind of timid or low profile to begin with, then yes, they are probably going to run away. But if the attacker is a guy high on something, or a guy who's desperate for his next fix, let's say you're screaming your head off, you're making a lot of loud noise, and the person is trying to rob you, most likely, the person is just going to grab your head and slam you into the next wall to shut you up, eh? Or start smacking you until you go quiet, right? If you use your phone to make loud noise, most likely the person is going to take the phone from you and stomp on it, right? Whistle, whatever you're using. There's just as much of a chance the person running away as to the person trying to terminate the source of that noise that you're making. Okay, so loud noise only work if the person who's assaulting you is kind of cowardly or trying to stay low profile to begin with. Okay, so in other words, if it's someone who's groping you on the bus, someone who's trying to steal things and don't want to get caught, then yes, that loud noise is going to work. But if it's a relatively determined and aggressive attacker, that loud noise is going to just provoke them to try to destroy the source of that noise. Number 2, pepper spray. Okay, I hear this so much that carry a pepper spray for self-defense. And again, I'm not saying that pepper spray is a bad idea. It's it works a lot of the time. But if we take one of the most recent uh, cases in Taiwan, where 2 police officers got stabbed to death by someone they were trying to arrest. The police officer pepper sprayed the guy right in the face, point blank. The guy got angry. Didn't the guy didn't fall down crying and all that stuff. The guy just got angry, went berserk, pulled out a knife and stabbed the police officer like 40 times. Right? Pepper spray work sometimes, but you need to know that there are some people who are really good at pushing past that unpleasantness, right? Some people can deal with that, especially a person who is already under some kind of influences and might not feel the full effect of that. Or the person might have turned their head in time and not get the full brunt of it. Okay? So relying your life on pepper spray alone without any kind of martial art training, other weapons, tools to back you up is a really big gamble. So the first two we talked about, noise, pepper spray, those are usually what I call low conflict tools. They're tools that try to make the attacker go away. So now let's talk about there's four more things, and these are actual techniques, things that people tell you to do that may or may not work. Number one, groin strike, kick to the groin, hit to the groin. We talk about this a lot. Okay, some people even say groin strike is a bread butter of Krav Maga. But this is the thing, you can't just rely on knowing that groin shot. It's a great thing. It's a groin shot is great because if you get a good one in, that pretty much sets the person up for all kinds of uh, attacks afterward. Because even if the person is really, really hardcore, right? Uh, there's a big shock to the system if you get a good groin kick in that will at least shock them for a couple of seconds. But you need to know how to follow up from that. And you can't just count on that good groin strike unless you run really fast. We'll talk about that near the end of this video. Because why why is it that you don't want to just rely on growing shot? Because growing shot, while it will stop a lot of guys, it will make some guys homicidal. Okay, some guys, when you kick them in the groin, they will try to kill you after that. Okay, so you got to remember that when you hit someone in the groin, the pain is so intense, it might debilitate some people, but there's a small percentage of guys, especially a few years ago, I knew a bunch of army guys that were trying to raise money on the internet uh, by making videos of them punching themselves in the groin. Yes, I just punched myself in the groin, right? And these guys were doing it like really, really hard. I didn't even do it that hard right now because I'm not that hardcore. I don't want to hit myself in the groin. Um, so these guys, when they did that to themselves, yeah, they were down there like, oh God, and they were holding their groin, but they didn't seem like totally debilitated. Okay, so if guys that can do this on the internet to raise money can do that, like someone you are trying to run away from, survive the attack, you don't know if this is one of those crazy guys that maybe every day he gets his friend to kick him in the groin for fun. You know, you don't know that. Yeah. So you don't want to just count on a groin kick. Also, almost every guy, by the time they turn adult, know about the dreaded groin attack, which means to get a good groin shot in, it's very hard, especially when you want to count on it as your only move, right? Let me show you guys what I mean by that. If someone was attacking me and I want to start with that groin kick, most likely it's going to fail, right? Because most guys are conditioned to look for that. The guys are very sensitive to that. The moment anything comes near their groin, a lot of guys will just turn their hip across their leg or step away, right? This is why groin kick is really hard to get in if you just count on that as your first line of defense. Now, if I have enough martial arts savvy to not start with the groin shot, but incorporate that into my attack So I might start with a punch to the face, and if they block that, then I'll automatically go down to elbow to the body, and my right elbow goes right down into the groin. Okay, face, body, groin, right? This gives me a much higher chance of getting that groin shot in because their brain is trying to deal with the threat to their head, to their solar plexus, and probably won't register that my ultimate goal is that groin. So groin shot is good, but you need to know how to incorporate that with your other techniques. Number 4, the pinching. A lot of people tell you if someone grab onto you, you pinch them on the tender part of their arm. I do that a lot. Okay, I'll tell you guys, I do that a lot when I'm sparring uh, in a class environment. If someone tries to choke me or grab me, I claw or pinch the heck out of their inside inner arm, inner side, their neck, right? That works almost all the time in training. And this is what makes this very dangerous. It will work in class, it will work on your cousin, it will work on your friend. But when you actually do it for real, when someone's actually trying to choke you to death, and you go and do this, suddenly it doesn't work. Why? Because the intention is different. Okay? Your friend, your cousin, your sibling, your classmate, they really don't want to hurt you, which means they don't have any recourse. If you pinch them, it hurts a lot. They have to let go, right? If my intention was to actually hurt you, and you start pinching me, then I start hitting you, right? Because my whole intention is to hurt you. So relying on that pinch, because it works so well in training, is very dangerous. Also, the reason the pinch doesn't work is no one ever died from being pinched before. Okay, your attacker knows that. So your attacker knows that yes, it hurts a lot, but it's not going to kill them. It's not even going to debilitate them. So psychologically, there's no reason for them to stop attacking you just because you're pinching them. If anything, that just gives them more fuel to want to break your arm so you can't pinch them anymore. Number 3, depending on the clothes the person's wearing, like if the person's wearing anything thick, like my gi right here, you can pinch all you want. It's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to hurt that much because the material is so thick. So, which means if the person is layered up, jacket and long sleeve shirt and all that stuff underneath, thick, heavy jeans, work jeans, pinching is not going to do it. Okay, not at all. So since we're already talking about pinching, let's go to item number 5, pain compliance. Pain compliance is a great tool in self-defense. We use that a lot. But you need to know that pain compliance without the ability to back it up is an empty threat. What am I talking about? Pain compliance by bending the wrist and showing them, if you mess with me, if you want to persist, I can snap your wrist, break your finger. That is good pain compliance. Okay, pain compliance by grabbing the nose, putting your hand against the nose, and twisting the head. You come with me. If you don't come with me, I can break your friggin' nose. That is good pain compliance because I have the ability to back it up if you don't comply. So there's a pain and there's a promise of more pain. What is pain compliance that might not work in a real situation? A lot of people will say, oh, take your foot and scrape down the shin. Take your elbow and go like this on the chest. Okay? Uh, Pressure point. Pressure. This one, unfortunately, is a kung fu fu thing. Pressure point. Okay? Grab their arm. Pressure point. Makes it hurts so much they won't want to attack you anymore. Again, this will work if the attacker is untrained, inexperienced, and relatively wimpy. But most of the time, if you do a pain compliance like elbow to the chest and foot stomping down on the shin or in and stepping on the foot, or go for some weird pressure point thing on the arm, most likely you just manage to really piss them off. Okay? Because these are not pain compliance that you can uh, threaten them with more consequences. You're not debilitating them, you're not keeping it up. So this kind of pain compliance is just uh like barking your shin on the edge of the table. It hurts, but most people don't just sit down and start crying or run away when they bark their shin on the table, right? Or when they stub their toe. Most people I know, when they stub their toe or hit their shin on the side of the table, they go, "Ow! God damn it!" Ugh. They get angry. They jump around. They're in pain, but they get really angry. They want to destroy that table. That's what's going to happen to that person when you just do that to the shin or do that to the chest, right? So unless you can follow that up with something, these pain compliance are very dangerous to use, right? Last but not least, this one is another really common one that talked about by a lot of people. People who know self-defense, people who don't know self-defense. The famous eye gouge. Poke them in the eye. Stab. Put your finger into their eye. Wait, let me quickly say this. This is not a bad move. Eye gouge is fantastic, like the groin strike. If you know what you're doing, it's great because it will debilitate the person. But eye gouge cannot be used as your only move. Why is that? Because it's very hard to get someone's eye. Anyone who's sighted have this biologically ingrained in their DNA. Something comes at their eyes, they turn their head. Something comes at their eyes, they block. Okay? And then, if you keep that up, it triggers a fight or flight response. If it's flight, great, they'll run away. If it's fight, that means they are going to neutralize the threat to their eyes, which is you. Okay? So you may turn from being just a simple case of someone trying to pick your pocket or trying to rob you to someone actually trying to bash your face in because now you're threatening their eyes. Also, the eyes is such a small target. All it takes is lowering the head a little bit, turning the head. Uh, I, I'm going to tell you this. There was one time when we were sparring in Krav Maga, and I grabbed someone in a headlock, and that person did the Krav Maga thing, reached up and started trying to grab for my eye. I was able to hold this pose, hold him in the headlock, and just twitching my head left, twitching my head right. He couldn't get my eye for the longest time. In the end, he had to grab my hair to keep my head still, right? So if your whole game is that poke in the eye, it's very dangerous, huh? Like I said, these six advice, they're not bad. Every one of them has a chance of working, but they cannot be your only backup. This is why you need to learn techniques. Because when these things fail, you need to know how to do other things. Now, before we finish today's video, let me quickly just talk a little bit about things that mostly won't fail. will not say that they won't fail at all, because unless you're willing to kill the person outright by shooting them in the head or cutting their throat, any technique have a chance of failing. Okay? Because you never know what's up with the person, what kind of steroid or what they may be on. You never know. But these techniques have a much higher chance of succeeding because they are not really reliant on the person's reaction. They are more reliant on uh, body mechanic and science. Number one, what have a higher chance of succeeding is running really fast. Right? It's notoriously hard for someone to hurt you or kill you when your whole goal is to run away. Now, obviously, for my blind viewers, blind people like myself, that's not an option. Running away, unfortunately, won't work for us. But for the rest of you folks that are lucky enough to have two strong legs and working eyes, always think about that. Running away, running really, really fast, have good endurance will be one of your trump card. Okay, that will be one thing that can save you more than a lot of these techniques. Another thing that will work most of the time is pain compliance with the ability to inflict actual damage. What am I talking about? The thunderclap, hand over the ear. Okay, this, if you get this over the ear, if you clap someone over the ear, I don't care what they are on. They can be drunk, high, they can be zombies, whatever. It's going to mess them up. Now, if you don't get it on the ear, if you get their face, then congratulations, you just pissed them off. But if you get it right over the ear, the air go right into the air canal, scrambling the inner ear, the brain, everything. Now, even if they don't feel the pain, their equilibrium is off, their balance is off, they can barely hear anything. Okay, now that is a technique that tried and true work almost all the time. If you break someone's finger, doesn't matter how tough the person is, doesn't matter how big the person is, that hand is not going to work properly. If you break someone's kneecap, so rather than stomping the shin, stomp the knee. If you mess up someone's knee, doesn't matter how big, how good, what kind of drugs they're on, they won't walk properly. If you hit someone right in the throat, doesn't matter how big they are or what kind of drugs they're on, they can't breathe. These are things that almost work all the time. And of course, my favorite one, if you carry a tool that can actually inflict serious damage to the person, like this, okay, works almost all the time because now the person knows to continue this battle, to continue this situation, their own life is on the line. And a lot of people might not be in the mood for that, right? Especially when they wanted in the first place was to just uh, rob you for $20, something like that, right? But always remember that the moment you pull out a tool, you have to, in your mind, be prepared to go the distance and deal with the court and all that come afterward. So be very responsible and learn how to use this properly. I talked about this before. Carrying a tool is one thing, but learning how to use it is a different thing. If you carry a tool, or if you carry the wrong tool, or you don't know how to use it properly, or you carry it in a silly place that it takes you 5 minutes to find it when you're being attacked, it's not going to do you any good. In the end, this is not me trash talking self defense technique. God knows that I am all about self defense. But you need to know proper martial art techniques and fighting techniques for your self-defense to be um, more solid when the techniques that you rely on for self-defense suddenly fail in the street. Thank you for checking out today's Tactical Tuesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Wisdom Wednesday. For now, stay safe. Have a good night.